Okay, well, young people are always jealous, you know. They have to get beaten down by the system before they can just be normal about things. That's just the way it is, you know. All right, so we're a bit late here starting, but this is closed, right? The questions where we're at as far as this book goes and these kingdoms. Now I'm going to show you now, let's finish this vision before we go into questions about what we need to understand. This is, as you see, pretty serious stuff. This is going to move a lot of subsequent history. So I saw a little horn, line 7-8, sprouting, and it was full of books. Then what happened? Thrones were set in place, and one of great age, or sometimes called the Ancient of Days, took his seat, and his robe was white as snow. A little bit like the Jesus empty tomb presentations of the different Gospels, with an angel who was white and pure white. But this is not an angel. Who is this? This is God. And strange to have a portrait of God, but it is God. And the throne is something from Ezekiel, like the chariot vision of Ezekiel picking up here in Daniel. And the hair of his head is pure as wool. His throne was a blaze of flames. Here's the here's the Ezekiel chariot vision. The wheels were burning fire, and a stream of fire poured out. You know, this is, again, I read you a little bit of that from Ezekiel last time. Issuing from his presence, 1,000,000 waited on him. This is the myriads of heavenly angels, the heavenly host. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. This is probably not supposed to do this, to pick God, but he's doing it. And that's, again, really unique to portray God and his court, if you like, or the heavens. And a court was held, and the books were open. A lot of this has gone into the Apocalypse of the New Testament. This is why this book is famous, right, what we're talking about now. I don't think the rest of it really is terribly, impressive necessarily. You might like it, you might not like it, but this, now we're really into the heart of this book, the nitty-gritty. The book, the Revelation, the Apocalypse of the New Testament has this thing about the books being open and all this sort of, I call that kind of presentation a little bit mystification, impressing with the imagery, whether, making people awed by the power of whatever's going on. Needless to say, I'm not awed. The great things of Horn, but I think it's great literature. I do think it is good literature, not great, but good literature, interesting. Were still ringing in my ears. As I watched, the beast was killed and its body destroyed and committed to the flames, and the other beasts were deprived of their power, but received a lease on life for a season and a time. Usually this season and a time is a time 2 times and a half. And when they say that, a time 2 times and a half, that we'll have in Daniel at some point, I can't put my finger on it right at this moment, you've probably read it, you've seen it. It's the amount of time Antiochus Epiphanes rules before he's killed or died. I forget what his fate is, back in Syria, after he desecrated the temple. And he desecrated the temple when you read Josephus and the Maccabee books, after he returned from a campaign in Egypt. And really, his desecration of the temple, obviously someone told him there was a lot of gold in the temple. He needed money for his campaign. He had to pay off the soldiers. Who else needed money for his campaign, had to pay off things? Vespasian and Titus. And I already told you a little bit about that, but just to draw the parallel there, they took the temple, burned it, and so on. That will be in Josephus' Jewish War. And there was gold and treasure in the temple in those days, because it was, some people portrayed the temple like a bank. You know, the people gave their contribution, put their money and kept it there or whatever. Sacred place. No, even the Parthenon in Athens was like a bank, because nobody would dare incur the goddess's wrath by, you know, stealing from the sanctuary. And she was covered, the picture of Athena, the statue of Athena, which is 40 feet high or something like that in the Parthenon, she was covered in gold leaf. And, you know, a lot of the treasure of Athens was in the Parthenon. It was like the Bank of Athens. You have to see these things not in the imaginary way, but the real way. The temple was the Bank of Jerusalem. Well, so Antiochus Epiphanes needed some money. He stopped by and raided the place. Took the money he needed, whatever, to pay for his campaigns. And of course, this didn't produce a very positive effect on the local inhabitants, as you can see from this book. In any case, the author of Daniel makes more than that. And I gazed into the visions of the night. We had that image earlier. And I saw coming on the clouds of heaven one, as you said in your Bible, had the appearance of a human being, one like a son of man. One like a son of man. But since he's on the clouds of heaven, he's not a man. Men don't fly on the clouds of heaven normally. So he looked like a man, but he was something more than a man. What he was, we don't know. In Christianity, he's Jesus Christ, the Messiah. And as we already went through this class, he's called the Son of Man. But that, you see, is, I tried to show you, marks the documents as questionable. Secondary, maybe you'd like to say. Written by people who didn't really know what they were talking about. That is, written by Greek-speaking people, I believe, who really, his experience of Palestine was limited. Limited experience of Palestine. They knew something, they had heard some things, they read some things, but I'm not sure that the picture they construct is a reliable one, as I told you. And that's your business. You have to make the decision. I know where I stand on that. I'm still looking for Jesus, put it that way. And if the Jesus that exists is satisfactory to you, which to most people it is, fine, no problem. Gets you through your life and gives you what you need spiritual wise, well, that's what it's there for. It's supposed to. But historically, this is another issue that has to do with people who like history, and I'm still looking for this individual. I know the people around him to some extent, and so I don't know about that. So the Son of Man is a big problem for me, since I know it comes from Daniel and Ezekiel, and it doesn't exist as such. So I say, oh, it's a new thing. Jesus invented it. Okay. But I think it's based, as I told you, on a misunderstanding of the word Son of Man, which simply means man. Ben Adam. Man being Adam or man. Anyway, we've been through that. This being of some kind, supernatural or not, came to the one of great age, who is supernatural, we all agree on that, and was led into his presence, and what was conferred on him? Here's the Jesus anticipation for those who see Jesus in this way. On him was conferred sovereignty, glory, kingship, and men of all peoples, nations, languages became his servants. His sovereignty is an eternal sovereignty which shall never pass away, nor will his empire ever be destroyed. Well, in just a few brushstrokes, Daniel created all of Christianity. To my mind, he did. I mean, there it is, right there. And no other prophet has it in it. And this is what, you say, what do you mean? Well, this is what Christianity is answering to. This is the passage. Now, I'm a spoiled sport. Not because I like to be, but because it just happens to be that way. it seems that Daniel, the writer here, we know this is not the historical Daniel. He couldn't have lived this long. And this person is witnessing the Maccabean uprising. Now you say, oh, you're just a nationalist, you like Judas Maccabee. I don't like or dislike Judas Maccabee. But the writer here seems to be a supporter of the uprising against Antiochus Epiphanes. Now whether he thinks this figure is Judas Maccabee or someone like that, I don't know. But in any case, I don't think he knows either. Because I don't think the writer here lives to see the end of the Maccabean uprising. Because in all the visions that he has here, he doesn't get any further than here. The temple is been desecrated. In the next vision, we'll find that an abomination of the desolation has been set up in the temple. That will be further described in the Maccabee books, which is why we need the Apocrypha and stuff. If we can read Ecclesiasticus, that would also be a reason to have the Apocrypha. The abomination of the desolation will be spoken of in the Synoptic Gospels, not in the Gospel of John as far as I'm aware. You all know the difference, being religious study students or people who've had some religious training perhaps, between the Synoptic Gospels and the Gospel of John, I assume. Anyone not familiar with, you can admit it, I don't mind. Anyone not familiar with those terms? Synoptic Gospels are the three Gospels that are basically variations on the same source. That's what we call them synoptic. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are really, with differences, using the same material with slight variations, more or less. Luke more, Mark less. Matthew somewhere in the middle. John is a different tradition. So we don't call, when we say the synoptics, we mean Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And usually we put them in tandem like this, so we get a harmony of the Gospels in 4 columns, so we can see where they differ and where they agree. It makes studying much easier. Where did my friend with the Hasidic outlook disappear to? I hope we didn't lose him. Maybe he's celebrating Sukkot. Is tonight Simchat Torah or something? I don't know. No?
No, it's Thursday.
Thursday night? Well, he's gone. Well, it could have helped him. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he could have used that. What the synoptics vis-a-vis the Gospel of John. I don't know. It helps people to understand these things. Okay, so maybe I went too far that Christianity is created here, but certainly this is the bedrock here. Whether they have got it all right or partially right, it leaps out from here. Now this is a very popular book in the Dead Sea Scrolls too. So Max said, well, is that Christianity in the Scrolls? No, I don't think it is. But it's maybe what Christianity was in Palestine. Which is what my position will be in this class ultimately. I'll tell you before, that the scrolls are what Christianity was in Palestine, not recognizable as any Christianity we or you ever saw. Because it isn't Christianity, it's Essenism. And it isn't even Essenism as far as what most people would consider Essenism to be. Because most people see Essenes as people contemplating their navels, retiring, meditating, peaceful, apolitical, out in the wilderness, living like monks in a cave someplace, fasting. No. These are very aggressive Essenes. Very aggressive Essenes. And all you do is have to read their literature and see these are very militant Essenes. This is more like Bin Laden, I hate to say it. These are Bin Laden Essenes. And I don't want to compare these people to a creep like that. But the point is, the zeal is really there. And so the point is that they're not Essenes like any Essenes anyone ever imagined. And you have to read the literature to see. So I think they are revolutionary Essenes. fact, at one point, I say they are, we normally speak of three groups of Jews. In that Maccabees Zadokites book, I think I say at one point. Anyway, we normally speak of at this period Sadducees. This is the popular view. Pharisees and Essenes. 3 groups of Jews that this period Josephus describes. And there's a 4th group. We also will describe Zadokites. And I call the group at Qumran, which is something which is really, a contradiction in terms, was the Messianic Sadducees, which is really something entirely different from what normal Sadducees are considered upper class, corrupt, establishment, people against the Pharisees or something, and Sadducees are very bad people in most people's view, the Gospel's view, and so on. But when you say Messianic Sadducees, well, what is that? That's like a contradiction in terms. No, it's not. It's what people at Qumran probably would most resemble, if we could call them anything. But anyway, Daniel is popular there. So, I think early Christianity is Messianic Sadduceeism, but that's really complicated, and you won't get that until we finish the course here. You can call it revolutionary messianism if you prefer. Where does the Sadducee come in? From plays on words. Now, play on word is different from allegories. Our allegory takes a story and interprets it in an odd, nuanced, self-serving way. Something you want to do with a story. You don't like the way the story really is, so you change it into something else. Play on word is sometimes punning, making fun of, or moving the word over slightly into a secondary meaning. You play off the word. Joe Schmo. That's a very poor play, but that's one play on words. Hebrew writers and people love play on words. My Greek isn't good enough to know if the Greeks like play on words. So Sadducee, if that's a Greek transliteration, the Hebrew would be Zadokites. And then if you know your Hebrew well enough, and how's your Hebrew with the Israeli Air Force shirt? Is it good? Well, I like Israeli Air Force shirts, so I'm into that. You can get Zadik and you can get Zadok. You can get lots of things out of that. Zadik, most people have heard something about. It's a leader in Jewish lore, means righteous one, the Tzaddik. The righteous leader, the righteous one. So you see, if you play Sadducee another way, you can get righteousness out of it. Because Hebrew is a language based on 3-letter roots. And ZDK always has something to do with righteousness. So, well, how the Sadducees, which is a Greek transliteration, you know what a transliteration is? Taking a word from one language into another language, which is a Greek transliteration of a Hebrew word. How do the Sadducees, we know, are not righteous, they're awful people. So the New Testament and other groups, even the Rabbinic Judaism doesn't like them, portray them. Because there were earlier Sadducees who were a different kind of Sadducees. And what I do in Maccabees, Zadokites, Christians, and Qumran essay that you have in that Dead Sea Scrolls and the First Christians, I try to show how an earlier group split into 2 parts. One, opposition Sadducees, which turn into revolutionary or messianic Sadducees, which turn into Essenes and Qumran literature. I know it's complicated now, we'll see later on. And establishment Sadducees, who become tools of or puppets of the Herodians and the Romans. And the difference is, one accepts appointment to high priest from foreign power. We're going to get that issue in the Maccabee books. That'll be a big issue in the Maccabee books. The Maccabees do not accept appointment to high priest from foreign power. And so the Sadducees are willing to accept foreign power. And I include the Herodian family as foreign power. They appoint, or the Romans appoint, the high priests. In the Maccabee books, the Seleucids will appoint the high priests. The Maccabees will not accept that. They will revolt against that. So a Sadducee originally would be someone perhaps who said you had to make a claim for righteousness in your claim for the high priesthood. So that's how if you play the word over into the righteousness aspect of ZDK, which is the root of Sadducee, you can get two groups of Sadducees. A later, an earlier, and a later. And the earlier one, which I submit to you didn't exist before the Maccabean period much, will be somewhat connected to the Daniel books and the Judas Maccabee material, and the Maccabee books, and the Dead Sea Scrolls. The scrolls like to call themselves sons of Zadok, which is another play, if you like. Sons of Zadok can be another ZDK word. That's the noun based on it, the name, the personal noun. Zadok is a name in the Hebrew Bible. Who was Zadok in the Hebrew Bible? Do any of you know? My Chabad friend would maybe know. He was David's high priest. The first temple was originally built under Zadok in David and Solomon's time. So he starts the Zadokite priest line. We get the word Zadokite from Zadok. So it's not so mysterious as it sounds. So the Zadokite priest line would be the correct righteous priest line. Not only in Zadok's name, but also in your claim to the high priesthood. So that's what's going on here. So Sadducees are saying, oh, well, we're descendants of Zadok too. Yeah, but the opposition group would say, yeah, you're descendants of Zadok, but you're sycophants. You're people who, what do you do, play up the foreign power? What's a good word? Puppets, traitors, browners. That's another word I can't remember right off. You're, compromisers. But we are the purists. We won't accept that. We make a claim for righteousness in the genealogical claim, both genealogy and righteousness. But later on, when you get to Jesus in Christianity, what book in the Christian Bible starts playing games with Jesus as high priest? Hebrews. Not surprising, it's the letter to the Hebrews, because this is what Hebrews would be interested in. And what's the claim, the famous claim in Christianity for Jesus' priesthood? A priesthood after the order of Melchizedek. Or as some of you might have heard it said in a sermon, Melchizedek. Yes, but you shouldn't do those pronunciations. You get the right one, because then the word comes out high. Melchizedek. There we go again. ZDK. Another variation on the Zadokite priest line. This is a priesthood after the order of King, Tzedek righteousness. Righteous king. So it has several implications or connotations or plays. And where does Hebrews get that from? I think Abraham, was it? Meets the king of Salem, and he comes and greets Abraham, was it? And he says, I forget, you are a priest after the order of Melchizedek. I forget that whole where, but I think it's in the book of Genesis. Is it in the book of Genesis? I think so. It isn't David. I don't think it's David. No, I think it's Abraham. It's in the book of Genesis, a weird story in the book of Genesis. They love to take things out of context and play games off them. Never mind. Okay. So now, let's go back here. So,
I remember the word you were worried about, quisling.
Quisling's a good version of thing. That would be okay. But that's traitor. There's another one more like accommodating, I think is the word. Accommodating. Accommodating Sadducees. We accommodate ourselves to your power. Okay. So now, I, Daniel, was deeply disturbed by the visions that were passing through my head, so I approached one of those who were standing by and asked him to tell me the truth about all this. Who is Daniel approaching to interpret his vision? Who's having the vision in the first place, by the way? Daniel. Daniel is having visions in the night. Right? He is not interpreting the visions in the night. Who is interpreting the visions in the night? Someone standing nearby, like the standing angel in Jesus' tomb. The tomb was empty and two angels, or one gospel has one angel standing there. He is gone before you to Galilee or something like that. These people are always standing by. Well, if you look in chapter 8, we have this man identified. Because I'm sure it's the same man. Line 15 of chapter 8. As I, Daniel, gazed at the vision and tried to understand it, I saw someone standing before me. Again, he looked like a man, but he had the appearance of a man, or a human, if your Bible says it. But he wasn't a man. This is definitely an angel. And what angel is it? I heard a voice cry over the Ulai, whatever that, I guess some river. Gabriel, tell me the meaning of my vision. And then Gabriel interprets the meaning of the vision. So now here we can tell the Muslims they got things wrong. Sorry, boys. Oh my God, I better not say this. My head will be rolling on the ground over here or something like that. I've got to watch out, have myself decapitated or something like that. You don't like dissent, you know. I have a strange way of reacting to dissent. Just kill the dissenter. That's an easy way, isn't it? I'm old enough, doesn't matter anymore. But the point, I lived it long enough to make a difference. I was 35 on my way. But the point is, who do the Muslims think and say Gabriel is? This is how they get around the whole thing about the Qumran. The Qumran is God-given because Gabriel for them is the angel of revelation. He reveals the Qumran. Another point Muhammad sometimes calls it the Holy Spirit, sometimes he calls it the angel Gabriel, who's talking to him or giving him the visions. This is what Muslims believe. Fair enough, most people believe lots of things. But the point is, where did they get this angel from? Right here. They don't know it. If you ask them, where did you get Gabriel from? Oh, he taught the Quran to Muhammad. He revealed the Quran. Yeah, but where did he come from? How do you know he's from? We don't know. We don't do history before Muhammad. Well, you can tell them it's from chapter 8 of the book of Daniel, okay? And he's not a revelationary angel. What kind of angel is he? An interpreting angel. He interprets the revelation. He doesn't give the revelation. So again, a little bit of confusion on the way to a new religion. Daniel, you see, a lot of trouble comes out of Daniel, actually. A lot of trouble. That's why it's an interesting book. I'm wasting a lot of time on it. I hope you don't mind. But it is interesting, I think. And hopefully you won't forget these things when you come to having the chance to put someone down. Because then you can always, that really infuriates me. You can show you know more than they know? Oh my God, they really get angry. You say, well, look, chapter 8, Daniel, line 17, Gabriel, that's the first appearance of Gabriel in literature. The first appearance of Gabriel in literature. That's where you guys got it from. Another sort of takeover. Accurately or inaccurately. It's dangerous stuff when you transmute into other civilizations. So, okay, so now he becomes the revelationary angel of the whole Qumran. Okay, cool. But here, Gabriel was only, as far as we knew, supposed to interpret visions, not give visions. Because that's how they get around the fact that Muhammad can't be a mistake. You know why they wanted to execute Salman Rushdie? Because he portrayed the prophet as making errors, and that the Gabriel told him stuff, but he forgot it, and then he couldn't remember what he was told, so he got it all confused. This is in his novel. And then they pronounced a death sentence on him. Why could they pronounce a death sentence, I told you, on Salman Rushdie, and not one of us, usually, unless they capture us in Iraq or someplace, or it happened to be the World Trade Center or something like that. How come they can pronounce a death sentence on Salman Rushdie and not one of us? In theory, I'm saying, not practice. They can do anything they want, but in theory. Because they got the new thing, you killed 10 million Muslims, therefore we can kill 10 million of you. There are preachers who have delivered fatwas in this vein, which is all nonsense. No one's killed 10 million Muslims anywhere. But in any case, that's a good excuse. We offered you the chance to convert to Islam, but you refused. That's what the latest Bin Laden tape did to Bush or something like that. So we can attack you there. Anyway, it doesn't make any difference. The point is, how come they could pronounce this on Salman Rushdie? Because he's a Muslim originally, and there's no apostasy, as I told you, from Islam. You cannot, most people don't realize, you cannot, in strict Islamic theory, apostate from Islam. To have insulted the Prophet is an apostate from Islam, therefore you are worthy of death. Therefore we can put a death sentence on you. You unbelievers to begin with, many of the people in this room, you are not apostating from Islam. Therefore, that's not a reason why we can do this to you. We can think of some other reason, but not that particular reason. Yeah. So a lot of people in the West don't know. I don't say all Muslims think like this, but in the worst moments, some do, unfortunately, because it's in the original document. This is a medieval religion. Look, in Judaism, you had stoning back in the time of David and things like that. These are very early, I don't want to say primitive, very early things. And Christianity were burning people up until recently, until the 17th century. That's where we got separation of church and state. So you have to understand that these medieval, they're not for our time in terms of how most people see things. So we don't realize that people think like this. You don't realize that it's out there, and that's really scary to understand that it is out there. And it's very difficult to deal with. You think you can sort of like teach people to be different or change them? We were doing that in the last century. People all wanted to be modern. Everyone wanted to be like, modern people, go to movies and things like that, be like Paris, have high couture or stuff like that, But now it's all gone. All that is gone. Nobody wants to be, quote, westernized anymore. I don't have the answer to this problem. You're going to have to live with it. I don't have to live with it. I don't know what the outcome will be. But the point, like Daniel, I'm closing the book. I can't predict the future. But the point is that at one time you thought you could change people's views because they wanted to be modern, Western, hip, and so on. No more. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Any case, this is Gabriel, and this is the first appearance of Gabriel. So that's probably who it is in chapter 7 too. So let's go on. And in reply, he revealed to me what these things make. You see, he's the revelationary angel. He reveals what they mean. He doesn't reveal the vision. He doesn't, he's not revelationary in the sense that there's a revelation that he gives to someone. The four great beasts are the four kings who will rise from the earth. Those who granted sovereignty are the saints of the Most High. The saints of the Most High haven't been mentioned before here. The saints of the Most High is a new concept. Now, don't think of these saints as we normally see them. Someone like this, with a circle, a halo over his head. These are not these kind of saints. This is the first appearance of saints in the literature that I know of. Again, Daniel introduced that. These are holy warriors. These are holy warriors, and the actual word it's based on is the Hebrew word for holy one. So since we don't have a good translation for holy ones, we put saints. But the word is usually kadoshim. Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Holy, holy, holy. Kadosh, Hebrew is based on three-letter roots. K-D-S-H means holiness. Jews take a kiddush cup on the Sabbath because it's a blessed cup of wine. K-D-S-H. S-H being one vowel. So these are kiddushim, holy ones. From the adjective kadosh, change the vowels, changes the meaning somewhat. I am is a plural in Hebrew. Okay, so these are the saints of the Most High God. This is all new stuff. Yeah.
What is the chapter and verse of saints of the Most High?
18 and 19 of chapter 7. And the kingdom will be theirs forever and ever and ever. So it isn't even a singular person, this one like a son of man riding on the clouds of heaven, unless he's supposed to be the Messiah, though it isn't stated in so many words here. Then I asked to know the truth about the fourth beast, different from all the west, very terrible, iron teeth, bronze claws, eating, crushing, trampling, and the truth about the 10 horns on its head, and why the other horns sprouted and 3 original horns fell away. Antiochus Epiphanes replaced the 3 other kings of the Seleucid dynasty. And why this horn had eyes and mouth that was full of boast, and why it made a greater show than the other horns. Now, I think this is the actual author speaking here. This is the horn I had watched making war on the saints. Why doesn't he call him by his name? He's there in Jerusalem watching it. He's an eyewitness to these events. The Seleucid authorities making war on the army of Judas Maccabee. He's there. He sees it. To me, in my mind, that dates this book. It doesn't date everything in this book. But everything in this book comes down to here and stops. The writer here doesn't know any more than this point. Then he stops. So to my mind, the writer only saw that much, and then he either died or didn't write anymore. He doesn't know about Julius Caesar. He doesn't know about Genghis Khan. He doesn't know about Napoleon. He doesn't know about Bin Laden. He doesn't know about George Bush. He doesn't know about Saddam Hussein. He doesn't know about these people. He doesn't know about these people. My kids used to call him that when they were young. Saddam Hussein. They couldn't say Hussein. They said Saddam Hussein. So, it was a good one. I'm glad you thought that was funny. I think it's funny. Anyway, this one I watched making war on the saints and proving the strong until the coming of one of great age. So for the time being, he's doing good, Antiochus. But then the one of great age makes judgment in favor of the saints of the Most High God when the time came for the saints to take over the kingdom. And this is what he said. The fourth beast is to be the fourth kingdom on earth, different from all the other kingdoms. It will devour the whole earth, trample it underfoot, and here we have it all again. As for the 10 horns, from this kingdom will rise 10 kings. There we have the 10 kings. Another after them, this one, different from the previous ones, bring down 3 kings. He is going to speak words against the Most High God and harass the saints of the Most High God. He will consider changing the seasons and the law. That's Antiochus Epiphanes. The saints will be put into his power, for there it is, for a time, 2 times and a half, 3.5 years after the initial incursion. But a court will be held and power will be stripped from him. He dies. So this writer knows about the death of Antiochus Epiphanes after 3.5 years. But he doesn't know about the restoration of the temple service after 6.5, 7 years that we're going to get in the next vision. I guess he does, because it's in the next vision, so maybe he does know it. But anyway, this one doesn't. Will be given to the people, the saints of the Most High God. Wisdom, God, not my God. Court will be held, power will be stripped from him, consumed, utterly destroyed, and sovereignty and kingship and splendors of all the kingdoms under heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the Most High God. His sovereignty is an eternal sovereignty, and every empire will serve and obey him. Here the narrative ends. I, Daniel, was greatly disturbed in mind and grew pale, but I kept these things to myself. Yeah, I'm not surprised he was a little upset by this vision, you know. Chapter 8, another vision. The third year of Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, after the one I had originally appeared. Now, I don't know if this is the same writer or another writer piling it on here. You can decide for yourself. I gazed and found myself in Susa, which is in Iraq, the citadel of the province of Elam, and gazing at the vision I found at the gate of the Ulai. I raised my eyes to look around and saw a ram standing in the front of the river. Now another animal. It had 2 horns. Oh, we know who that is. That's the Babylonians. Both were tall, one taller than the other, and the one that rose higher was the second. I saw the ram thrust westward, northward, and southward. No, I guess that's Persia, I'm sorry. With 2 horns, I guess this is the Medes and the Persians. The Medes and the Persians. No animal could stand up to it. Nothing can escape it. It did as it pleased. Grew very powerful. This is what I observed. A he-goat came from the west. Okay, the goat from the west, Alexander. Having covered the entire earth without touching the ground. Between its eyes, the goat had 1 majestic horn, Alexander. It advanced towards the ram with 2 horns, which I had seen standing in front of the river, and charged at it with all fury of its might. I told you about the battle that Alexander won against the Persian king. I saw it reach the ram, and it was so enraged with the ram, it knocked it down, breaking both its horns, the Medes and the Persians. The ram had not the strength to resist. It fell to the ground, trampled underfoot. No one was there to save the ram. Then the he-goat grew more powerful than ever. But at the height of its strength, the great horn was snapped. Alexander is killed, dies, poisoned, dies under strange circumstances. And in its place sprouted 4 majestic horns. Those are the 4 winds of the kingdom of the 4 winds of heaven. Pointing to the 4, there it is, pointing to the 4 winds of heaven. I anticipated it for you. So those are the 4 parts of Alexander the Great's kingdom. From one of these, the small one sprang a horn, which grew to great size towards south and east, towards the land of splendor. Land of splendor, Palestine, Israel, Jerusalem, Holy Land. It grew right up to the armies of heaven, flung armies and stars to the ground, trampled them underfoot. It even challenged the power of the army's prince. It abolished, here it goes, now we're getting more detail, the perpetual sacrifice. Antiochus Epiphanes abolished the sacrifice in the temple and overthrew the foundation of the sanctuary and the army to it. Put iniquity on sacrifice and flung truth to the ground. Does this one like Antiochus? No, he's always the villain. The horn was active and successful. I heard a holy one speaking, another who said to the speaker, how long is the vision, the perpetual sacrifice, the abomination of the desolation, or the disastrous iniquity? I don't know what you have in your book. In the New Testament, the Gospels, it's the abomination of the desolation. Where do you find it in the Gospels? What are called the little apocalypses. Jesus gives a little apocalypse as he comes up to the temple. When you see the abomination of the desolation standing where it ought not to stand, take to the hills, or something like that, he says. How many are familiar with that passage in the New Testament Gospel? It's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. You can find it pretty easy. I think it's around chapter 24 of Matthew. I don't have it in front of me. Okay, so this is where he first mentions the interruption of the sacrifice and the abomination of the desolation in the temple. Okay, so how long is this going to be? Until 2,300 evenings and mornings have gone by. Then the sanctuary will be restored. So now we know how long the sanctuary will be vacant. 2,300, I think, is 6.5 years or so. 7 years, 6.5 years, 7 years maybe. Right? So the first 3.5 is up to the time Antiochus dies. The 7th is up to the time Judas Maccabee cleanses the temple, restores the service in the Maccabee books and in Josephus. As I, Daniel, gazed, and you'll say, how do you know this? I'll show you. I gazed at the vision, tried to understand it. I saw someone standing before me who looked like a man. We had this already. And I heard a man's voice cry, but it was Gabriel, an angel. He obviously knows who this Gabriel guy is. We didn't know him before. He's in no other Hebrew book. Despite the spiritual, Gabriel, blow your horn. He approached the place where I was standing. As I approached, I was seized with terror and fell prostrate. Son of man, here he says it. Son of man is Daniel because he's a man. Got it? Son of man is a man. The angel says to Gabriel, son of man, because you're a man, son of Adam. He said to me, understand this. The vision shows the time of the end. That's a new concept. No other book has it. We now call this kind of literature not only apocalyptic, but because it deals with end time, we call it eschatological, a fancy Greek word, meaning things that deal with the last things or the end time. And many Qumran documents deal with the last things of the end time, and so do New Testament documents. The Revelation being one, some of the Gospels also have this. The Habakkuk Pesher from Qumran is very big on the end time. We'll read it in the class. So they're all being influenced by that. He was still speaking when I fell senseless, and he touched me and raised me. Come, he said, I'll tell you what is going to happen. When the wrath comes to an end, the wrath is another concept, the wrath. That's in the War Scroll. I think it's also originally in Jeremiah. When the wrath comes to 70 years of wrath. When the wrath, people like numerology like this, it comes to an end. This concerns the appointed end. Gabriel speaking. As for the ram that you saw, its two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. Okay, there it is. No mystery. No Chinese communists, no Fidel Castro, no Bin Laden, no, I don't know, Mao Zedong. It's just Media and Persia. The hairy he-goat, the king of Javan. Ooh, Javan, what's that? I never heard of that. That's because you don't speak Hebrew. In Hebrew, it's Yavan, Y-A-V-A-N, and it means Greece. Yavan in Hebrew is Greece. And it will be in the scrolls too. Just because you don't know it, not you here, but people who talk about these things, doesn't mean that is what it is. And in fact, if you want to know where it comes from, it's very simple. Hebrew is based on roots. I is Y, O is V, N is N. It comes from the word Ionic civilization. We all know that Ionic civilization is Greek civilization. Yavan is just a Hebrew rendering of what you in English would call Ionic. Yavanic, Greek. So now you can do that to anyone who starts talking about this book. Tell them, oh, you're talking about Javan? You don't know what you're talking about. Javan is Yavan. Yavan in Hebrew is Greek. I-O-N is Y-V-N in Hebrew, okay? Oh, okay, I forgot that part of it. But I'm talking about, yeah, well, that's, we all are in that ballpark, so I'm not kidding. But no, I mean, when I'm talking about people who say, hey, Yvonne, this is like, you know, this is, used to be Joe Stalin when I was young. But he died and he's gone, so Yvonne is not Joe Stalin anymore. I don't know who it is now. I guess it's Bin Laden. But next time it'll be whoever is the big enemy in the future. I don't know who it's going to be, but that's who Yvonne will be. But in any case, Yvonne is Greece. I can't emphasize it enough. That's what it is. And you think I'm full of baloney? Fair enough. But that's what it is. And that is Alexander the Great. And Gabriel is saying, the hairy he-goat is the king of Yavon, Alexander the Great. The large horn between the eyes is the first king. The horn that snapped and the four horns that sprout in its place are the four kingdoms following his empire. At the end of their reign, when the measure of their sins is full, a king will arise, a proud, foe-faced, ingenious man. Here we go again. Back to who? Antiochus Epiphanes. Some people, the Maccabee books and Josephus will tell you after this class next time who this Antiochus Epiphanes is. Some people like to call it Antiochus Epiphanes. I think the proper pronunciation is Antiochus. But since the town is Antioch, I always say Antiochus. I'm not able to say Antiochus. I can like Antiochus Epiphanes. It doesn't roll off my tongue. So if the proper pronunciation is Antiochus, you can pronounce it that way. Please do. But I'll continue being like Duke Bush pronouncing nuclear. And he knows it's nuclear, but now it's become such a thing with him now, he can't ever say nuclear, even though he knows what it is. He's dyslexic originally, but now he knows, but still it says nuclear. Okay, I say Antiochus. If you want to say something different and you think that's wrong, fair enough. Sounds better in English anyway. Antiochus Epiphanes. If you want Antiochus, fine. Okay, so now, does this vision like him? No, it hates him. His power will gather strength. He will plot incredible streams. He will succeed in what he undertakes. He will destroy powerful men. We'll hear about one person he destroys will be Onias, the high priest. That will be in Maccabees, 2 Maccabees. And the people of the saints, the holy people, such will be his resourcefulness and his treacherousness that he will succeed. He will grow arrogant. He will take many unawares. He will destroy them. He will challenge the power of the Prince of Princes, God, I guess. But no hand intervening shall himself be broken. The explanation of this vision in the mornings and the evenings is true, but you must keep the vision secret, for there are still many days to go. And I, Daniel, lost consciousness, and I was ill for several days. Then I got up to discharge my service. Wow. Okay, those are the 2 big visions. And we have Gabriel interpreting the second one pretty straightforward. Babylonia, Persia, Medes, and Greeks. Finally, chapter 9. Gotta hurry here. It was in the, I don't want to keep you too long, but I'll just keep you to get this done. It was in the first year of Darius, son of Artaxerxes, who was this is the Mede again. And then he saw the number of years, as Jeremiah mentions it in 29:10, the period of wrath, 70 years. You can check it in Jeremiah, that's what it is. So now he's going to tell you a little bit about that. Israel is in bad shape, they flout the law and do all this stuff, line 7. I'm not going to read this whole thing here. Jerusalem has the Lord's fury descend upon it, line 16. The sanctuary is desolate, line 18. So after Antiochus Epiphanes, things have really gone badly, and the Maccabee books will describe that. Line 21. Gabriel mentioned again, the being I had originally seen in a vision flew suddenly down to me, the hour of sacrifice. Daniel, you see me? I've come down to teach you how to understand. You are a man specially chosen. This is where Muhammad gets his view of Gabriel, I guess. 70 weeks of years are decreed. I can't read much more, it's too much for me, but that's 490 years. 70 times 7, I think. And introducing an everlasting integrity and a seal on vision and prophecy, anointing the Holy of Holies, and so on and so forth. I can't understand all this, but after 62 weeks, an anointed one, line 26, will be cut off. Most people think that will be described in the Maccabee books. That will be a high priest called Onias. I can't tell you about it yet until we get to the Maccabee books, but it doesn't matter. Once again, it shows the author is late in the Maccabean period.
Onias is the anointed prince?
He's a high priest. He's an anointed one. Anointed means can be a priest, can be a prince. In this case, it's a priest in the temple, and anointed. But and then on the wing of the temple, line 27 will be the abomination of the desolation. What happened is that Antiochus Epiphanes apparently set up a statue of the Olympian Zeus, either on the wing or of the temple or in front of the temple. And just like some things you wouldn't pronounce, they wouldn't pronounce that name. So in Hebrew, it had a parody sort of name that they could pronounce, which ends up in English translation as the abomination of the desolation. So the statue of the Olympian Zeus, translated into Hebrew, parody, like you would say Joe Schmo again, not saying Joe, but Schmo, translated back into English, it comes out to be statue of the Olympian Zeus. So they call this statue the abomination of the desolation. And it seemed to have a verbal resemblance to it. That's the end of that chapter and vision. Chapter 10. Now Cyrus is king of Persia. And Daniel gets another revelation. He was doing a penance, line 2. He's sort of like a Nazarite again, and that's very important for Christianity because you see, he doesn't eat rich food, meat, or wine, and he doesn't anoint himself with oil. Seems to be a kind of tempering Nazaritism. You know, in the New Testament, I don't have time to explain all these things, says Nazarene. I think they're really playing off Nazarite, but that's enough for another day. I'll pick that up another time. I want to try to finish this quickly here. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the finish. I think I can. If you'll let me hurry. I want to get you out of here in 4 or 5 minutes. That is exactly the way James is described in all early church testimony, that he will not eat wine, meat, that he will not drink wine, and he will not anoint himself with oil. That's exactly how he is described. There's another angel introduced here, Michael, for the first line. Line 13, he'll reappear in the war scroll in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Line 21, and then chapter 11, 1. He fights the prince of Persia. So he's the warrior angel for Israel. And then he's going to fight the prince of Javan, which is Greece. 3 more kings are going to rise, line 3, 2, 3, and 11 in Persia. The 4th will come be richer than all the others. He will challenge the kingdom of Javan, that's the Greeks. A mighty king will rise and reign over a vast empire and do what he pleases. I suppose that's Alexander again, I'm not sure. Anyway, you read in very mysterious terms, the writer that is. And a very important thing occurs in line